Hi y'all. Your girl ain't do nothing with her here, so don't mind me. Just loading up my computer for work. Oh boy. So right now it is 8:41 a.m. I start work at 9. So what I want to talk about, you guys, is being a parent is hard work. It is hard work. Oh my goodness. Now, I am fortunate. I am fortunate that my son is who he is. So happy. But like being a parent, it is so stressful. So stressful, you guys. Like my son, he's not in a bubble, okay? He's not in a bubble. You know, it's real life out there, but like I don't think and probably this probably was this nah, I can't even say it was the same way when I was younger because I had lived next door to, unfortunately, drug dealers. There were drive-bys right to the house that was right here, and like it was crazy. So I knew about life, you know what I mean? I knew about life. We were in the ghetto. People would say we were in the ghetto. And, I was fortunate to have both of my parents, you know, married, always together, never split. Now, were things perfect? No, it was not perfect, but it is what it is, we as parents, we're not perfect people. But my whole thing is having my son. I had to do a lot of inner, like I'm constantly trying to better myself as a parent. And what do I mean by that? My parents like were not like not cuddly, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't something like you can just easily go to my parents and talk to them, right? Now I've told you guys about my mom and how she was like never talk about wanting to, kill yourself as a young person. You want to rely on your parent, but me being a young person, I'm just like, yo, I can't even talk to them about stuff. So for me, I was like, one thing I want to do for my child is make sure we have open communication. And for me and my son, we do have that. One other thing for me is to not react. Like if your child tells you something, you don't want to react. Sometimes you just got to listen, take it in, take some time to see how you're going to respond because I could be quick with it, y'all. I'm like, what? What you talk about? Y'all know what I mean. Like for my parents, it was just like, if I were to tell them something, my father would be on it. I didn't have that because, I kept things in. I mean, I wasn't bad or anything. I wasn't bad. I stuck to school, but once I graduated high school, I was in association with people that was out in the streets, okay, gangs and drugs, okay. I didn't do any of that, but that's who I associated myself with. And there were instances where your girl would have been doing time because of the people I was around, okay? That's where I'm coming from. I have told my son this. I have told my son this. My like siblings, it was like, Candace, I didn't know. And I'm just like, yeah, like people don't know where you come from. Like I tell my son, like, yo, you gotta be careful of who you are around, who your friends are. Like for me, I'm like, my friends are not bad, they're not bad people. They're just in things that, they're in single parent households. I got both parents. People were like, Candace, you got the good life and all of this. And I understand, like for my son, I'm just trying to teach him. He's not in a bubble, but like seriously, like he was like, I'm like, do you see what goes on? Do you see in the news? Do you even watch the news? You know what I mean? I'm like, kids at school don't feel safe. You know what I mean? It's hard out there. And then I try to tell him as a parent, I ask questions. I do ask questions, you guys. And I'm like, are you lying to me? And he was like, man, you hurt my feelings. I'm like, Jabez, I'm not trying to hurt nobody's feelings. It's just me being real because I know when I was younger, I could lie to my parents and they don't even ask anything else. Like they trust me. I trust my son, but sometimes you just got to give that extra. Like I will say there's different kids, but I know my child, like he's like he's like me, right? We're pleasers. Like, we want to make our parents happy. We want to be pleasers. We want the best for ourselves. We know what we want, right? But like at the same time, it's just like we could fall short and that's okay. That's my part as a parent, to be able to be like, yo, we can do this. And it's just hard being a parent, you guys. And one thing I want to say is just making sure you have that open line of communication. Me being lovable, I'm a tomboy, y'all. I'm not gonna say tomboys can't be lovable, but like I didn't have that lovable household, like being held and caressed. Not caressed, that's like love, right? Like love, but like having that bond. I was like, when my son was younger, I'm just like, boy, and plus on top of that, I was going through my stuff, and I was like, you gotta bulk up, like stop it, stop crying, all this. It took me years to be like, yo, Candace, you gotta show love, you gotta take things slow. He's not, he's soft-hearted, even if he was hard-hearted, I should still be kind, right? And these are things that I'm learning, and I'm still having to adjust every single day, you guys. He was like, I would say, like, I cried. Let me tell you why I cried. My son was like, Mom, now, is it going to change now? He probably said he will stay with me for a little bit longer, but he was like, when I hit 18, I want to move out. And I'm like, you're going to leave me? You're going to leave me? I ain't got nobody. And then I had to think, right? I'm like, man, I left home when I was 18, but my mom still had my father, And then shortly after, my father passed, and I would go back to my mom's house, move back out, and my situation. But I'm like, how did my mom feel? Like all her kids just up and leaving. Like, I'm like, I want him to be a baby forever. Like, I want him to just enjoy his childhood. He's 16. He's going to be 17 next year. He's going to be graduating when he's 16. And I'm just like, I felt so hurt, you guys. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Why do you want to leave me? But at the same time, like, Candace, ain't nothing you did. This is just him being, wanting to grow up. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like in my head, I'm thinking about all these things. First of all, I'm like, Candace, he's about to get his license soon. Your insurance is gonna go up. Because right now he's not working. I'm not forcing him to work. Now, he should be able to pay his own bills. Like, if you want this responsibility of having a license, you need to pay these bills. But I'm not going to force that on him. Let him get through school. And then after that, you know what I mean? That's what I'm going to do. But I'm like, man, he's going to be driving. My bill's going to go up for insurance. How much is that going to go up by? A couple $100. That's going to be out my pocket. Eventually when he's of age, he moves out. I want to figure out what I'm going to do with rent and all of these things. And it's a lot to take in, you guys. And one thing for me was, and I was telling Miss Brenda, like, my parents did not talk about finances at all. At all. Like, you wouldn't know. Like, I know we had food stamps growing up. Sometimes, back in the day, you would get these, like, little coupon books, and the money, you would tear out the money, and they were colorful. Y'all, I used to love it. Like, back in the day, people were like, oh, you got food stamps. And after a while, everybody wanted food stamps. But it was like a bad thing, right? And then people were like, I'm like, yo, our parents didn't hide that from us. They didn't hide that from us, but they didn't tell us what they were going through or anything like that. And for me, like, my mom was always a stay-at-home mom. My mom had kidney failure when I was younger. Her kidney shut down, so she was on dialysis, okay? And eventually, everything started, after you're on dialysis for so long, it just doesn't work unless, you ended up getting a transplant. She didn't want that. So yeah. But yeah, I was just like, they never talked about money. Never talked about having to pay bills. These are things that I had to learn on my own. You know what I mean? You see your parents going to the county building, right? You see your parents going to the county building, and these things, but it was nothing talked about finance wise. So with my son, I'm like, I'm gonna be different, not just because I'm on my own, not because I'm just on my own, you know, but because that's what I think I should do as a parent, because I want him to have knowledge and not just be like, oh, mom, you never taught me this. You know what I mean? I don't blame my parents for not teaching me about finances. I don't. I feel like I've always had logic, right? And logic was always on my side. That's just the type of person I am. I'm very logical. Like, if you do this, this is the outcome. You know what I mean? That's how I've always been. But for me, I'm like, yeah, I gotta make sure my son knows, I'm like, he's like, so mom, how much is rent? Like, he'll ask questions. I'm like, why you want to know how much rent is? He's like, well, I want to get out on my own. I'm like, okay, I understand. I thought you was trying to be nosy. But sharing that, like, he was like, how much is this? So he wants to know, and that's good. And that's the thing, having that open line of communication. My son feels okay with even asking me. I feel okay and open with addressing with him how much I have in savings. Let me tell you, at the end of the day, if something were to happen to me, I don't want my son to scramble. I don't want my siblings to scramble trying to figure out what is available for my son. You know what I mean? It's just me. Like, if my husband was alive, he would know everything. When my father passed away, it was like a scramble. Like, what did dad have? Did he even have insurance? It was just stressful for my mom. You're going through this hard time, but it was just like, even as a couple, you didn't have an open line of communication. There were, insurances in place, but they lapsed, so there's no coverage. You know what I mean? Like, when my father passed away, there was nothing. It was just enough money for my mom. You know what I mean? There was nothing passed down to us kids, and that's okay. That is okay. We were all grown. By the time my father passed away, I was 18 years old. Well, sorry, I just turned 19. My birthday's in the beginning of September, and he passed away towards the end of September. So I just turned 19. And it was just like, we don't have to have anything, but like, I feel like even in like the Black community, life insurance is not talked about. When my father was in the hospital, we know he was losing weight. He was having doctor's appointments, colonoscopies. We still don't know what he had. Like, did he have cancer? Any of that. Like, he kept things from my mom. Like, it was just, I'm like, I can never do that to my loved ones. Now, did he just not want to worry my mom because she had her own health dealings? I don't know. But like, yo, we're kids. You have 3 grown kids, and then you have us, like, just starting off on our own life, because between the 3 of us smaller or younger kids and the 3 older kids, there's like a 10-year gap. Okay. And I'm just like, having life insurance is a must. I'm like, when I leave this earth, I want my son to at least have something, obviously, to take care of my cremation, all of that stuff. You know what I mean? I want him to at least have something later on. Now, no, nothing's about money, but just to have that. I'm like, if I can afford paying for insurance, if I can get insurance through my job, these are things that my child or my siblings should know about. It's so very important. It's not talked about enough in the Black community, I believe, just like mental health. It's just like, come on now. Come on now. But yeah, for my son, y'all, it being a parent is so tough. And as he's getting older, I'm like, man, it's even harder for me now, because I'm like, my baby is growing up, and you just want the best for them. You want them to be around people that's gonna bring the best out in them. You want them to succeed in all of this. And I will have to tell you what's been going on. Nothing bad at all, but I got like a couple of minutes before I have to clock into work. But it's just like, if how sometimes we're like, well, if my parents didn't do that, then how am I supposed to learn and do that for my child? Like, you ever know, like, how can I say it? You grew up one way, right? You grew up one way. There were things in this life that you wish things had been different, right? Now you are on your own. You're growing up and you stick to the past. You don't, you're like, well, I don't have to change. My parents did this. I'm okay. All of us 6 kids is good. You know what I mean? All of us. But when we talk, we're like, man, we wish this. So we try to, some of us try to do that with our kids. We try to be better than the last generation, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I say, me having an open line of communication, me not being quick to judge, that takes work. Even every single day, if my son wants to tell me something, even if it's not what I want to hear, it's just like, Candace, bite your tongue and just listen, because you don't want to run your kids away. You want to keep that open line of communication. In today's age, so many things can happen, and then parents are shocked. Why are parents shocked of what their kids are doing? Because they don't have that open line of communication. You think your child is the best little angel ever, and they're just totally different. I don't want that for me. Like, as I mentioned, for me, I was hanging around people like as I got older, and stuff, I started telling my mom. She's like, "What, Candace?" I'm like, "Yup, I was street smart." I'm telling y'all, y'all don't know the half of it. Like, but look who I am. Like, I've always been smart. I never got myself in trouble, but just being in association with people, I could have done years, okay? Done years. And I'm happy it didn't come to that. I met my husband, and that lifestyle was all over for me, because it was just him at that point. Not in a good way, but like, I didn't have those friendships anymore. Then I, had an abusive relationship, and I'm just stuck to myself, kind of, which is good. I'm like, that's okay. But I learned from my past. My past made me who I am. That's why I tell my son, my past made me who I am. So as he gets older, I'm like, yo, if you do things, we have to deal with the consequences, but at the same time, learn from your mistakes, and that's all we can do. So me being a parent, I'm like, yo, I want the best for my child. I definitely do want the best for my child. And I'm trying to set him up for success. And at this point, once he gets out on his own, he has to figure life out for himself. But the only thing I can say is that, I bettered myself. What I wish I had from my parents, I'm doing that for my son. You know what I mean? Having that open line of communication, talk about finances, talk about life, okay? Talk about life. Like, my parents never talked about the struggles. My mom, she got pregnant with my older brother when she was like 13, 14. So she was young, okay? She was like 13, 14. She didn't finish school, and it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't feel like we should ever have to be ashamed of where we come from, and I can't speak for my parents, right? They're not here. Um, but yeah, y'all. Yeah, y'all get the gist. All right, so let me clock into work, and let me know, like, what do you wish your parents would have done differently? What are you doing different as an adult, whether you have children or not? What are you doing different yourself, versus how you grew up because you want it better? Are you doing something in a way that you're like, oh, this is what I would have wanted, so I'm going to make sure as an adult that I better myself in this aspect? And I'm not saying any parent, like, how you grew up is bad, but just having better, being better than the last version, right? That's all that is. Oh man. All right, work is starting, y'all. I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, bye.